Begin at the beginning.
Do you want me to look at you or look at the camera?
Whatever strikes
No,
you.
whatever you like. I mean,
We just try to make it like a conversation.
yeah, well, that's
so,
better.
yeah,
Of course, that's better way. I just wanted to check. Yeah.
This is the live stream here.
Yeah, that's the live stream, so that's what people will be watching on the internet.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So why Berkeley, I guess, is the question. How did you get attracted to the subject?
Well, I've been doing a series, as you know, on institutions. I
yes.
hadn't done a university. I wanted to do a university, and I wanted to do a public university. Berkeley is the greatest public university in the world, so I simply wrote a letter to the chancellor, whom I had never met, asking whether he would consider the idea, and he wrote me back right away and said, come out and talk to me. I had lunch with him and the provost, and after lunch they said, okay. Much to my surprise. But I was very pleased that they said, okay.
I'm surprised too. What do you think made them so eager to agree?
Well, I think Berkeley prides itself on being transparent to begin with. And I think also they felt that the financial crisis that they were in was not properly understood. And I thought, and they were working, they're people of extreme intelligence and goodwill, and they were working successfully, very hard to maintain the high standards of the university, both in terms of the students and the faculty. And I think they thought a movie might help. But, you know, obviously they were taking a chance because I had complete control over the movie. But I appreciated the fact that they were willing to take a chance with me, and they trusted me.
And were they familiar with your work?
Yeah, they'd seen some of them. I mean, they hadn't seen all the movies, but they'd seen a few of them. I mean, they'd seen Titicut Follies, for example, and that was not an obstacle to their giving me permission.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Did you know when you were approaching the subject that the middle class and the economic crisis would be so prevalent?
No,
yeah.
no, I didn't. I mean, all that I really knew in advance was that I thought a university might make a good subject. And you know, as I talked to them with that first visit, I learned more about the economic crisis. But basically, the idea was to hang out at a university and collect material and figure it out in the editing. I mean, the process that I had in mind was the same one that I have followed in the other movies.
One thing that I immediately jumped to with it being a university is what classes are you going to be in? How are they going to be ordered in the film? Like the subjects that are being discussed in the actual classrooms. And it seems like a lot of them are kind of pedagogical, like they're talking about education or they're talking about the institution. There's like some science, but it's
well, they're not pedagogical. I don't know what you mean exactly, because in each, well, they're actual classes. So one class they're talking about Thoreau, another class they're talking about John Donne, and another class they're talking about astrophysics, and another class they're talking about philosophy of time. So
there was one where they were talking about leadership positions.
Oh, and now they're talking about leadership. Yeah, well, obviously, when I come to structure the film, when I come to select the sequences I want to use, there has to be a reason why I want to use them. I had 250 hours of material. So, and the film was only a mere 4 hours, so I used 1/60th of the material.
What drew you to the Thoreau particularly? The discussion of Thoreau.
Well, you know, I like to make the film, but I don't like to explain it.
Oh, I see. It was interesting as someone who studied English, the Thoreau and the John Donne, especially seeing the reactions of people learning about John Donne at a young. What year were they in at that point? Would they have been?
I don't know.
First or second? Yeah.
I don't know. I think they could have been. My guess is that they were all second to fourth year, because I mean, but I don't. The answer is I don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to consider how much of the audience would have gone to a university that's comparable, and how much of that is taking them back to those experiences where either they were looking around and seeing people kind of nodding off, or they were nodding off, and then you see the people that are really invested in it.
Well, that's always the case.
Yeah. But it brings up an interesting point, which is that when you're shooting in a classroom, the spectator, what they're seeing, kind of puts them in a position where they're being taught as well. Like they're getting some of the lecture.
Well, yeah, sure, sure.
It's an interesting wrinkle. Like you always do things like that where you have, you know, someone talking at the camera and you're learning about them a bit, but you actually feel like you're in the seat, like next to that other student with this one, in a way that I'm not sure in high school I felt the same way, but maybe it's something about the university that the dialogue and the lecture are so similar. That was an intriguing thing for me. I was wondering if you had considered like the seat and like the place of the spectator when you're in the classroom shooting.
Well, I mean, you basically have to.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you can shoot it. I mean, because you want the students, you want to see the students' response to the professor. So you have to shoot it from the side or the front, because you want to see their faces, you want to see the back of their head, and you want to cut it together so that you see the students reacting or appearing to react to what the professor is talking about at that particular moment, even though some cutaways are shot either before or after the particular words of the teacher.
And in this film in particular, you have a lot of kind of roundtable discussions, literally sometimes roundtable, and other times more informal. What are the challenges in just physically shooting that, being able to play off who's in the frame and not talking, who is?
Well, you have to make up your mind extremely quickly in those situations how you're going to shoot it, and you want to be in a position where, or at least you want to be in a primary position where you're going to be able to get the teacher on the assumption that the teacher is going to be leading the talk. So, for example, in the Thoreau seminar, you start off with the camera at the side or at the back, which gives you both a wide shot and a good position to get the teacher. But since the students are facing the teacher, it's not a terribly good position for the students, because you get either profiles or the back of their head. So that you want to start off maybe with a wide shot, but then you change position. You want to get, so you sometimes change position, so you get a profile, or you get the student full face looking in the camera, looking not in the camera, but appearing to look at the teacher, and you're shooting them looking at the teacher.
And did you just have the one camera in the informal kind of conversations?
Only one camera. So the whole film is shot with one camera. Yeah,
and it's an achievement that like those scenes feel so, like you don't feel the editing, you feel like you're actually in.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, but because they're all highly edited.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But you do get a sense that you're witnessing an actual conversation without any pieces missing necessarily. You're getting the lively debate. And one thing I really appreciated was how you can maybe capture one person talking and the person sitting next to them, how they just like physically behave when someone's talking beside them in these open discourses. Was that something that you knew Berkeley was like a good institution for? These
well, I mean, I don't think of it in terms of Berkeley being a good institution for it. It's something you want to look for in that kind of situation. You know, and I've had experience working in classrooms before, both in high school and in high school too.
Yeah.
And some teaching situations in the other films. But I mean, those small classes or small meetings, like the cabinet meetings of the chancellor, they're hard to shoot, because when there are a bunch of people around the table, you don't always know who's going to talk next. And sometimes you're out of position. And you have to move, because I always try to follow whoever is speaking and pick up the cutaways when the talk is less interesting. But at the same time, you need a certain number of wide shots where you see the speaker. So, and you have to move extremely quickly, and you know, every time you change the camera position, you take a risk.
And were you kind of anticipating some of the banality that would happen in the actual bureaucratic meetings?
Well, I mean, banality happens in any meeting.
Yeah.